Yo. Welcome back to the Corner Suite Podcast. You know what it is, man. You know who it is. Steve Nelson, aka Mr. Five Picks. You know, Mr. Do All of the Above, man. Entrepreneur, author, farmer, father, you know, ex-NFL cornerback, over 9 years of experience. Now I'm here trying to do this little podcast thing, man. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with your boy, man. If you new here, again, run the subscriptions up, man. I would very much appreciate it. I think we are at 690 subscribers. So we growing, you know, it's slow, but we growing. And I just want to say everybody that is a subscriber, I appreciate you guys. You know, when we get to 1,000, I think I'm gonna start doing, you know, little subscriber gifts, you know, whatnot, little miscellaneous type of things, man. And that's just showing my support because y'all supported me. Before we get into this video, we got another good one that I'm about to drop on you guys. It's about the NFL is about to cut the middle class. Yes, the NFL is about to cut the middle class and pretty much already has been doing it over the last several years. But before we get into it, you know, I got to bring to you guys my children's book, Farmer Stephen and Family. Like I mentioned, I'm a farmer. I raise cattle, sheep, chickens, all of the above, man. Fresh produce, you know, when the weather's right. Basically just showing the youth how to be sustainable, how where their food comes from. And pretty much I got, you know, my daughter and my mother, you know, on the front cover right here, man. So it's a cool little read, easy read, man. Not too many pages. Let me see. Uh not too many pages, man. Where we at? 43 pages, man. So, you know, got some nice illustrations and all that. So, yeah, man, I'll leave the link in the description after the video, man. Y'all can go ahead and hit the link and go over there and you know, purchase your book, man. Appreciate it. And I'll sign it for you guys if you want to go that route. So, let's get into it. Let's get into the video. All right, where we at? So, the NFL just quietly did something massive. The National Football League, right? Salary cap is now around 301 million per team. Guys, 300 over 300 million dollars, and I think the projections are a little higher than that. That's one of the biggest jumps we've ever seen. And when the cap jumps like that, careers change, front offices change, dynasties change, and some players get paid while others get replaced. Let's talk about what's really happening in the league right now. Let's talk about, first of all, over the last, let's see, 5 or so years. 2021 NFL cap number was, I think it was around $182 million. 2022, we make a nice decent jump up to $208 million. And we got 2023, $224 million. 2024, we got 255 million. 2025, we have $279 million. And for this year's projection, guys, we are at 300 million plus. So that's almost a 60% increase since 2021, guys. The money is rolling in. The best sport all across the land in America. You know, we trying to expand overseas and stuff like that. I don't really know how that's going, but as far as in the United States, man, football is the number one sport, man. Like it or love it, argue with your mama. You feel me? So let's get into it. The salary cap explosion, the cap jumping past 300 million means teams can extend their stars. Teams can absorb bad contracts. Teams with young quarterbacks are about to dominate. Look at the Houston Texans. They have a rookie contract quarterback window with CJ Stroud. That's dangerous because when your quarterback is cheap, you can load the roster. That's how the Kansas City Chiefs built around Patrick Mahomes early. That's how the Philadelphia Eagles loaded up when Jalen Hurts was on his rookie deal. Now, here's the part nobody says. When the cap rises, mid-tier veterans get squeezed. Let me just stop right there. Did y'all hear what I just said? When the salary cap rises, Mid-tier veterans get squeezed. Now, my business mind, because I am a business owner, my business mind understands, the thought process behind that. I really do. Because what do most successful businessmen do, or businesswomen, women, businesses in general, the lower your overhead and the more money you can generate, the better the better you are. The better you are, right? So same thing applies to professional sports. In the NFL, mid-tier veterans get squeezed. Now, even though it might not make sense, and I'm speaking from experience, my whole career they were trying to squeeze me for whatever reason, and I was a frontline starter, held my own very well. I put up numbers, that were, I guess, comparable to. I remember in 2019, my numbers were comparable to the defensive player of the year in Stephon Gilmore. Now he had more interceptions, but I think I gave up less yards than him in the passing game. I gave up 0 touchdowns. I had, maybe the 1 or 2 top pass breakups. He just had more interceptions. But he's a household name. So, that's just an example. So front offices, this is how the philosophy works behind this. Front offices would rather pay 1 elite player and 2 rookie contracts than 3 average veterans. The middle class is the NFL is shrinking drastically. It is. I mean, that's just what's going on, guys. That's why you see, every year when guys get closer to that 30-year-old age and beyond, you see a lot of more veterans get released. Now, most of the time they are very capable. Sometimes they've been former first round picks, guys that are playing on their second, third contracts, captains of the team. And it might not necessarily be about their performance and production. It's just how the league rolls, They rather cut ties with the veterans and keep that's why they call the NFL a young man's game. And that's just the business of it all. So let's get into AJ Brown's situation. The Eagles are reportedly listening to phone calls on AJ Brown. He's one of the most physical wide receiver ones in football. Back-to-back 1,400-yard season, a tone setter. But wide receiver contracts are exploding. Look at Tyreek Hill. Look at guys like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We're talking 25 to 30 million per year territory. So Philly has to ask, do we pay another receiver top market money? And they've already paid him. And I believe he's coming up on another contract. Now, there's some stuff behind the scenes. We all see the drama every year with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts to some may be limited, so he can't, spread the ball around as most would think. He has, Devontae Smith, Jalen Brown, and then he has Dallas Goedert. They have a lot of weapons, but Jalen Hurts, given his talent ceiling, he's surrounded by a great defense. So he's doing exactly, what his limitations require, and that's to not turn the ball over and just, be pretty much average. You have all the players, your team is going to help you do that. This is what some would say CJ Stroud. If CJ Stroud would have had any type of inclination of looking like Jalen Hurts, this past season in the playoffs, I think we'll be talking about a new Super Bowl, winner. I think, Houston Texans should have been facing off against the Seattle Seahawks. CJ Stroud threw multiple interceptions, turned the ball over a ton. And when you get into playoffs, guys, we just can't do that. So then let's jump over. We're talking about wide receiver. The wide receiver market exploded. And it's been like this for the last several years. We even see guys, let's say Christian Kirk, that was a big head scratcher when he first signed his deal. He went from Arizona to Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he was like at $70 or $80 million and he was in many eyes is like a wide receiver two type three. So he pretty much busted the market open for me, in my opinion. And then everybody else, if you're number one, they're gonna demand way more than that. You got a guy like George Pickens, who really doesn't have a lot of off the field issues. You don't really see him in the headlines, but it's what he does while he's in the building. Guy has, a lot of tardies showing up late. He's just not one of those guys that he's a rule guy. He breaks all the rules. Hell of a talent though. They'll tolerate you as long as as long as you have a elite production level, they will tolerate you. So with him commanding, and his market was, projected at close to probably $40 million per year annually. That's just where this thing is headed. Guys are about to get $40 million per year. And that was elite quarterback money just a few years ago. Now we're talking about another position that's going to be commanding pretty much top of the market for all NFL players. So it's not a surprise, though, given the situation with George Pickens. He's having some run-ins with Pittsburgh Steelers, showing up late, missing meetings, et cetera, and then that carries over to the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones and all those guys, they pretty much publicly put that out there, and that's just a negotiation tactic. But whenever you're trying to go into negotiation, guys, and this is for my future NFL stars, please just keep your nose clean. You do not want to give these guys any type of, reason to lowball you, because that's what they're guaranteed going to do. Let's just say a guy, you might be on your rookie contract and you show up late to a few meetings, or you get in trouble off the field, and this could be 2 years before your contract year. You might have think that you moved on, or the team has moved on from that situation. No. They keep tabs. They keep receipts. They're going to use that 1,000% when it comes to re-upping your contract. It always happens, guys. This is the stuff behind the scene. So it's not a surprise that they slapped the franchise tag on them. I didn't really think it was conducive to the team when you paying Dak Prescott top of the market at quarterback. You're paying CeeDee Lamb top of the market at receiver. You mean to tell me you're going to pay a third offensive player top of the market? Now, that goes to my point with the NFL. They're getting ready to get rid of the middle class, because these guys, these positions are commanding so much money. Cornerback, defensive end, pass rusher. Those are enough. Those are also two other positions where guys are going to be starting to see 30, 40 plus in the next year or two. Some guys are already at 30 as far as in the cornerback. Defensive ends, pass rushers are past it already. So, all right, let's just get back into it. Just something to think about. So back to Philadelphia. They have questions on, do they want to reset the cap and draft younger with A.J. Brown? Or if they're going to move on and get draft picks from him. Now, they could trade him. He has a ton of value. Any team will happily be ready to take him in. He can help upgrade anybody's roster right now. A team like the New England Patriots, it seems like they just needed one difference maker on offense when they played Seattle. Stephon Diggs, he's on the back end of his career. He just wasn't enough. He was non-existent on the field during that Super Bowl. Then I think he had maybe 1 or 2 catches. That's not going to get it done in National Football League. So if they trade him, they can get cap flexibility. They can extend the defense, right? Pay some players, or they can, just keep it and trade and have some flexibility with the draft capital. So they have a lot of different ways that they can upgrade their team. This is for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's called asset management, right? For my business people. All right, let's get back into the quarterbacks. The quiet quarterback carousel. Look at what happened recently with Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and Justin Fields. The league has shifted. Teams are asking, is this quarterback elite or just expensive? If you're not top 8, you're replaceable. That's why developmental quarterbacks are flying up the draft boards. That's why teams stockpile picks. The NFL doesn't overpay for good anymore. They either pay for elite or they reset. Now, I have an argument for both sides because time and time again, we see guys that, come out of nowhere getting these massive contracts, and we're just like, are they really that deserving? Now, I believe everybody deserves to get paid, but like top of the market money, like everybody, and it's a certain turn, it's a certain thing that we say, when it's your time, it's your time. So let's say for a position group, if you're coming up into the free agency market and you had a decent career, if you're a first round pick, or and you got a somewhat kind of a name, right? You got a decent fan base, you're likely a candidate to get broke off. That's just how it works. Versus a guy like myself, didn't really have a big name coming out. Now I was a third round pick, but I got tricked. I'm not gonna lie. I thought when you come into the NFL, they wanted you to just work hard and be quiet and go out here and play to the best of your ability. That's what I thought. But really what I was missing was the marketability aspect of it all. I wasn't really marketable. I have pretty much like a common name, Steven Nelson. I mean, there's tons of guys named Steven, right? There's tons of Nelsons out there. So, I already lost on that one. But I'm very proud of my name. As you can see, I got my jerseys up in the background. I got several. So I'm always representing and never ashamed of it. But I'm just talking to you from a standpoint of how teams view the guys that they're going to pay. They're going to pay. It's not just about talent, guys. It's all about marketability. How is this guy? These are questions too when they're going to pay a guy. Is this guy going to put butts in the seats? Right? Had I been a first rounder, I've already got a ton of hype behind my name coming into the draft, coming into the NFL, excuse me. So that means my jerseys are going to be marketable. My social media is going to be blasted, through the roof. So that means a lot of people are going to come out and watch me play. That's just how this thing works. If you're not in the first round, the first 2 rounds, I would say, everybody else is pretty much grouped in the same category. And that's the middle class, in my opinion. Unless you are a guy that goes out and somehow beats expectations, which I did myself, but I just wasn't, I made some good contracts, made some great money, and I've done a lot with it, so that's what keeps me, going. But, I can talk about it. But basically what I'm saying is, unless you were one of those guys that can come out and, demand a big contract, and now your name is back in the algorithm. Now you're viewed as an elite player, even if you got drafted later or undrafted, once you get a big payday, that's kind of how the league views you now. You kind of put in the category of those first rounders. It's all about marketability, right? All right. So it looks like to me, and I can appreciate this one right here, defense is trending back. Look at the recent playoff trends. Defense travels. The San Francisco 49ers built around Nick Bosa. Baltimore Ravens consistently win with the top defensive units. Pressure rated secondary. The Houston Texans is also building that identity. New England Patriots has a great defense. Seattle Seahawks has a great defense. For a while, it just seemed like, everybody only cared about the offense, high level scoring, explosive plays, and that's marketability. The NFL is generating more income for themselves, more touchdowns, more celebrations. That drives up the market, right? But this time around, it seemed like defense was the deciding factor in who was going to win the Super Bowl. Now, the Houston Texans fell short, and it wasn't the defense, though. They had a championship caliber defense, one of the best, if not the best defense in the NFL. They had multiple guys in the secondary with 4+ interceptions. Both defensive pass rushers have double-digit sacks. You know, it's just that's conducive to winning football. CJ Stroud turned the ball over. You know, now you're fighting an uphill battle, right? So, like the Houston Texans, pass rush speed, discipline. The league tried to go all in on offense, but when the weather hits, when the playoff hits, when protection breaks down, defense wins again. All right. That seems like the recipe moving forward. So with this new cap hit, $300+ million, you best believe teams are definitely going to make sure they have a capable, competent working offense. But you're going to see a lot of guys, more and more organizations going to be going all in on the defensive side of the ball. You got to have 2 cornerbacks. You have to. You just can't have one and just have anybody on the other side because that's a liability. You got to have 2 pass rushers, right? Because that's going to allow you to be flexible in your play calling. You can't just, when you have 2 pass rushers, you can drop back in coverage like Seattle and the Houston Texans. I think they only had 4 down linemen, and they was able to drop everybody out in coverage. That's more eyes on the football. When you got to rush 5 all the time, and teams that rush 5, you're putting your defensive backs at a disadvantage. Now you're playing man-to-man coverage all game, right? And teams are just going to pick you apart. So here's the money trap for players. The money trap, listen up. The money trap for players, the cap is going up. That doesn't mean players get smarter, right? I spoke about this a few times. We've seen it. We've seen it time and time after again. Warren Sapp, Vince Young, Clint Portis, millions earned, bankruptcy filed. The real flex is longevity, ownership, and income producing assets. Not leased cars, not changed. The league is changing. The money is growing, but discipline still separates athletes from owners, right? Discipline still separates athletes from owners. You don't see Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, or these guys. Now Jeff Bezos does live a flashy lifestyle. So that's a bad example. But Warren Buffett, for example, and many more other billionaires type status type people, you know, they don't flaunt their lifestyle. Look at Floyd Mayweather. I think he made $1.5 billion or $1.2 billion or something like that in his career earnings. And now he's on the tabloids seeming as if he's going broke. Guy's almost 50 years old, if not 50, and he's having to jump back in the ring. He has a fight coming up in September, and that's because of, you know, his hellacious spending, you know, just outrageous spending. Dude not paying taxes. A lot of his debt comes from taxes, not paying the IRS. When you're wealthy, that's going to be your biggest enemy, keeping your money. Keeping your money, the IRS is going to be, I mean, when you get wealthy, the biggest enemy is the IRS. So if you're not smart, if you're not frugal with your money and your earnings, and you don't know what to do when you're just constantly buying depreciating assets, guys, you're most likely going to go broke. You know what I mean? Inflation is high. If you have $100,000 in the bank, within 1 year, that money is not going to go anywhere. I'm just giving an example. You know what I mean? Like the dollar right now is less than $1. I don't know the exact number, but the average dollar right now is not really worth $1. So While you're out here spending things that don't spending money on things that don't really matter or generate income, you're losing money. You're losing just right off the bat. So I'm gonna close this out. The NFL right now is entering a new era, cap over $300 million. Wide receiver contracts exploding, quarterback middle class shrinking, defense is trending upward, front offices thinking long term. The smart organizations are positioning. The emotional ones are overspending. Mostly bad teams, because they panic. And the players who understand money will win twice, once on the field and once after it. That's the real championship, guys. The smart players will win in the long game, once on the field and after it. So, again, man, appreciate y'all for tapping in. Go ahead and subscribe. Share the video. Leave a comment. Really appreciate y'all for tapping in. Corner Suite Podcast. We out. Peace.